Welcome back to We're Not Really Here. I'm Natalie Pike and I am joined on the sofa today by Joleon, Lescott and Shaun. And that is half-time in the Manchester derby, or what I am going to refer to as the offside derby for that half, I think. 2-1 to us in offside goals, 0-0 overall. The game started off, two offside goals in the first 5 minutes, Joleon, but it was a good sign, I thought, considering when we would be talking a lot about that previous boring 0-0 game. Within the first 5 minutes, we'd had 2 offside goals, 1 for each team, and a bit of excitement.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like 2 teams playing to win tonight rather than not to lose. Again, there was a lot of respect shown to each other in the previous game, but tonight they've shown respect in a different way, and implementing their games that we've seen them play and try to adopt in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So it's a lot more exciting, and I'll be surprised if it does stay 0-0 throughout the 90 minutes.
Yeah, hopefully not. Certainly in our direction. For the first sort of really great shot on target, shot for us of the game, came in about the 13th, 14th minute, Shaun, and it was Kevin De Bruyne who had that incredible shot, and we were swooning it in the studio here, weren't we?
Yes, I jumped off the seat. It was the technique was absolutely brilliant, and Orfair had said, if I was striking that, I would have probably pulled it a good 10 yards wide. De Bruyne, with that ball being so central, to be able to kick it, connect with it, and it continued to go straight. It takes some technique. Julian would also know that, that is...
I won't know how to do that. And I'm surprised you do from shooting from outside the box, Shaun. We use
No, I don't shoot outside the box. But the technique to be able to hit that ball straight, because the ball is actually central. And normally, if you're right-footed or left-footed, you need that ball slightly on the outside of you to really, either give it swerve or hit it straight. And because it was so central to him, the fact he was able to connect with it and make it go straight was brilliant technique. And he's done well there, because I think 9 out of 10 other players striking that ball would have pulled that ball, it would not have hit the post. It would have been a yard or 2 wide.
So for us, sort of less technical people, Joleon, myself and the others watching,
thank you.
Give us a give us a little bit of a rundown on in terms of what was going on the middle there in that first half. So it looked to me like we had Kevin De Bruyne, we had Mahrez, both playing kind of centrally, switching a bit, and obviously Gundogan getting involved as well. Yeah,
again, there's plenty of rotation between the 3 names you've mentioned, and then the width is coming from Phil Foden and Raheem Sterling, and as long as you've got that width, it allows them to rotate a lot more, and no one player staying in an isolated position. Again, when we've seen Phil or Raheem coming off the line, we then see Kevin recognise that situation and pull into the opposition space. So, again, you have to have a high level of intelligence to recognise when to do that. Timing is key. Again, we see that there's no striker to occupy the centre-backs, but it takes a lot of detail just to be able to kind of cause other problems in terms of rotation.
What I've seen in terms of looking at what City were doing, obviously with De Bruyne playing that false 9, when De Bruyne comes a little deep, we actually create a diamond shape with Fernandinho being on the base, and then you got Gundogan and Mahrez. And I think the tactic may be that when De Bruyne comes a little deep, that can we get Mahrez to go in that space, or Gundogan go into that space that centre half may leave in following De Bruyne, because Sterling is a traditional wide player playing in the right wing. A right-footed player playing on the right wing is more likely to go down the line as opposed to coming in. So normally, if it's on the opposite side, we'll see those runs being made by the wide players. But because Phil Foden's left-footed on the left side and Sterling on the right side, those runs are not being made by Foden and Sterling. It looks like they should be made by Gundogan and Mahrez. And so we're not seeing them making those runs. And whether those runs aren't on, I don't know. But I think that looks like what the plan is. So see whether or not they make more of those runs in the second half.
Yeah, because what it seems like we have seen in terms of the players out on the wide, so Sterling out on the right, and Foden out on the left, is they do seem to be keeping quite wide, Joleon, and they do seem to be having those battles, which is causing those battles then with Shaun and Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, because as a centre half, you can't start higher than the rest of the back line. You can't start in midfield, so you can't go and man mark a Gundogan, a Kevin De Bruyne, or you have to stay in line. And with the width being occupied by Phil Foden and Raheem Sterling, that means the fullbacks have to stay back. So if like Shaun said, they were playing on opposite sides and they're making inside runs, the centre halves will be able to track them. But now they're not doing that. It stayed wide. Now you're a back 4, and your two front players, wide players, are occupying the back four, and then you've still got 4 or 5 players, because we're seeing Cancelo coming in as well. So you've still got 4 or 5 players in the midfield around their 3 players. So in terms of possession, that's when you're able to kind of dominate that. It's just then translating it into chances on how to create them chances. And at the minute, we've seen it nearly happen. We've seen players just getting on. It's offside, but again, if you get the timing right, you don't recover.
Yeah, because we certainly are having a lot of possession, 75% at points, 70% kind of over the half there, Shaun. So we really are dominating possession, but there hasn't been a huge amount of clear-cut chances for us.
Yeah, and this what makes me lead to that. I think the discussion about more creativity will come from the runs that are being made, and whether it's Gundogan, whether it's Mahrez, even if it's De Bruyne making those runs, and even Sterling, and Foden, these guys all making different effective runs. So I think that may be the talking point for Pep at halftime.
Now, for any of our viewers that weren't watching the game live, if you're going to be catching up on highlights later, you won't have seen a shot towards the end of that first half. The cameras picked up Pep Guardiola basically kind of on his knees with a hand to his head in a kind of motion of, oh, come on. What did that sort of say to you, Joleon?
I think just frustration with certain elements of the kind of game plan. We know Pep is a perfectionist, and is he ever that happy? Even when we've seen him win 3 or 4 by goals, you kind of know that there's something that he'll be disappointed with or expect more of. So that's just something that Pep has in him. Probably the reaction in terms of him being on one knee. Yes, that is a new kind of gesture, but the frustration and the perfection that he is, you expect him to expect the maximum effort.
Julian's absolutely right. We talk about marginal gains. It's these small things. And we always see Pep after games, and he's talking to players and saying, he just sort of moves the shoulder and says, you should be in that angle, that position, because that makes a huge difference in how that player can affect the game, whether it's turning and passing forward or whether it's turning and dribbling forward. And so when I see him make those expressions, it's little details that players will be making that he's like, you're in the wrong position. You're too far forward. You should be 3 yards back or a yard to the right. It's that little detail that us as normal people think, what are you on about? But he's such a perfectionist.
I always remember, I think it was the FA Cup final a couple of years ago when we beat Watford, and I think it was 6-1, and Raheem had scored 3 goals, and immediately at full time he was on him. Yeah. Like, we just won, and at that point he was still giving him tips.
100%. But you've got to recognise that the moment that he's probably critiquing could be another occasion where it's 0-0. And that chance may need to be the only chance you get, and it may need to be converted. So they're the bits that I think we're not recognising. Yes, he's doing it when it's 3 or 4-0, and it's been a great game to watch and a positive result. But he's critiquing them moments for the occasion when it's 0-0 or we're losing them behind, and you may only get that one opportunity.
Yeah, for moments like this where it is, as you say, it's 0-0 now, dominating possession, but we're going to need a goal in that second half, or we're going to end up in extra time, and then penalties. Of course, we know on the bench, Shaun, we talk about him all the time. We've got Sergio Aguero on the bench. Do you think we might see him? And if so, how far into the game do you think Pep might give it until he makes a change?
Well, Sergio is one of them. I mean, I'm trying to think which game it was. Sergio came on about 15 minutes ago, and within 2 minutes, he ends up scoring. This is what he's about. I don't like for us to rely on him, but if we were to bring him on, I'd like for Sergio to have at least 30 minutes, so he can really get into the rhythm of the game. And I think he loves scoring against United. Once he gets himself a good 25, 30 minutes, then
that's the thing. If it's 30 minutes normal time and then it goes into extra time, how do you then compensate that? So you, as I say, there's obviously a game plan in terms of minutes that Sergio needs to have medically in order to recover, but it's understanding what situation the game is in. Is if we're behind, do you just risk it all and say, okay, Sergio, we need a maximum of an hour, or do we say no, let's be conservative?
What do you think Pep's kind of team talk is now? Do you think it's kind of go out, right, we need to score now, we don't want it to go to extra time, we've got loads of games, or do you think he's kind of, patient, keep going, it's going to work?
I don't think he's ever kind of motivated by or driven by we don't need more games. I think it's more about what were you asked to do before the game, and are you implementing it? And if you are, then continue to do that. And if you're not, well, why not? And identify them kind of key moments and errors in the game. So I'm sure he recognises what he's been asked or what he's asked the team beforehand and what they should be doing to improve?
I'm sitting there thinking, with Rashford going against Zinchenko, and we know what Rashford can do in terms of, having shots from an angle that can work a goalkeeper. Would you want Rashford to run at Zinchenko and say, let him drive inside on his left foot, because he's not really going to put a ball on his left foot and put it in the top corner? Or would you say, because the angle's cute, keep him going on his right-hand side?
Well, I think you've seen it there. The key thing for that is, as soon as Rashford drives at Zinchenko, Diaz needs to get over and create the 2v1 in City's favour, because once you isolate any defender, but once you isolate someone with Rashford, he's capable of going past them. So I think it looks like every time he drives at Zinchenko's covering the inside, and if he goes at the outside, Diaz is then able to kind of combat that and nullify that threat. And that's the understanding that you need. It's not about Zinchenko stopping Rashford. It's about the team stopping Rashford and preventing him from scoring.
Some nuggets for you kids, eh?
Yeah.
Hey?
I was going to say, I absolutely love watching the game with these guys. You learn so much, and I hope you're all learning so much watching at home as well. So kind of just to sort of wrap that first half up, is it kind of fair to say we're saying it was a comfortable performance by us, probably not enough shots, but we're fairly happy at this point about what we've done, Shaun?
Yes, we are. And I think the team talk will be about the runs, the offensive players making more dynamic runs. So whether it's from out wide, making that flat run to go in, or whether it's a diagonal run from Gundogan and Mahrez, making diagonal runs in behind their and catching their defenses, I think it's going to be more of that. And then it's also, can we get De Bruyne on the ball anywhere in and around the box? Because if he gets his body half turn, he's got such ability and accuracy to pass a ball into the corner. He doesn't have to strike a ball really hard. He has that ability to just see the goal and go, I'm going to place it right in the corner. So I think it'll be more about the runs that we make.
Well, that's it. It's going to be the second half soon. Hopefully that'll be 45 minutes more, and we'll be talking to you again at full time with a Manchester City victory and not going into a session of extra time. So fingers crossed, and we'll be back here after this half.